Have you ever felt like the universe is trying to send you a message? There's a massive geomagnetic storm heading our way, and experts are saying it could have serious effects on our world. These storms, triggered by the sun's powerful activity, are not just beautiful displays in the sky. They can cause disruptions that ripple through our daily lives in unexpected ways. From affecting technology to stirring up intense emotions in people, geomagnetic storms are more powerful than most of us realize. In this video, we'll break down what geomagnetic storms are, how they can disrupt our technology, and even how they might influence our thoughts and feelings. Before this video gets buried, make sure to watch it all the way through. You won't want to miss what might be one of the most eye-opening events of our time. Explanation of geomagnetic storms. Geomagnetic storms are like nature's electric storms, but they occur in space. Imagine the sun as a gigantic power plant constantly releasing energy in the form of solar wind. Sometimes the sun releases bursts of intense energy called solar flares, or sends out massive clouds of solar particles known as coronal mass ejections, CMEs. When these solar winds and particles reach Earth's magnetic field, they interact with it, causing a geomagnetic storm. These storms aren't just random, they are triggered by specific solar activities. A solar flare, for instance, is like a massive explosion on the sun's surface that sends a shockwave through space. CMEs, on the other hand, are like solar tsunamis, large clouds of plasma that shoot out from the sun at speeds of up to 1,000,000 miles per hour. When these plasma waves hit Earth's magnetosphere, they disturb its balance, leading to a geomagnetic storm. One of the fascinating aspects of geomagnetic storms is their impact on the Earth's magnetosphere. Think of the magnetosphere as an invisible shield that protects our planet from harmful space radiation. When the solar particles hit this shield, it becomes charged with energy, which can affect various aspects of life on Earth. These interactions cause the auroras, also known as the northern and southern lights, lighting up the sky with beautiful colors. The intensity of these storms can vary. Scientists measure them using a scale called the KP index, ranging from 0 to 9. A low-level storm might cause minor disruptions that go unnoticed by most people. However, a high-level geomagnetic storm can trigger massive effects, disrupting communication systems, power grids, and even causing widespread blackouts. The strength of a storm depends on how much energy the solar particles carry and how directly they hit Earth's magnetic field. Geomagnetic storms aren't just a one-time event. They can last from a few hours to several days. The most intense phase usually happens in the first few hours after the solar particles reach Earth, but the effects can linger much longer. This continuous bombardment of energy keeps the magnetosphere in a state of high tension, like a stretched rubber band, which can snap back with force, affecting our technology and our daily lives. Understanding the cause and effect of these storms is crucial because it allows scientists to predict when the next big event might happen. Space weather monitoring systems track solar activity, giving us a heads-up when a potential storm is on the way. This early warning is essential for preparing and protecting our technology and infrastructure from possible damage. With more reliance on satellite-based technology and interconnected networks, understanding geomagnetic storms has never been more important. Potential impacts on technology. When a geomagnetic storm hits, it's like a cosmic jolt that can shake the very foundations of our technology. Our world runs on technology. Everything from smartphones and GPS to satellites and power grids depends on smooth, uninterrupted communication. Unfortunately, geomagnetic storms have the power to disrupt these systems in a significant way. One of the most affected areas during a geomagnetic storm is satellite communication. Satellites orbiting in space are exposed directly to solar particles, which can interfere with the signals they send and receive. This interference can lead to problems with GPS navigation systems, causing inaccuracies that might not just mess up your phone's map app, but also impact aviation, maritime navigation, and military operations. Imagine flights being delayed or rerouted because pilots can't rely on their navigation systems. But it doesn't stop there. Geomagnetic storms can also disrupt radio communications, especially high-frequency HF radio used by aircraft, ships, and even amateur radio operators. During a strong storm, the ionosphere, the layer of Earth's atmosphere that reflects radio waves back to the ground, gets charged with solar particles, making it difficult for radio waves to travel effectively. This can lead to temporary communication blackouts in certain regions, which can be critical during emergencies. Perhaps the most significant impact of geomagnetic storms on technology is their effect on power grids. A strong geomagnetic storm can induce electric currents in power lines, transformers, and other components of the grid. These induced currents can overload the system, causing transformers to heat up and, in some cases, fail completely. In the worst-case scenario, this can lead to widespread power outages that may take days or even weeks to fix. One famous example of this was the Quebec blackout in 1989. A massive geomagnetic storm caused a failure in the Hydro-Quebec power grid, plunging the entire province into darkness for several hours. This event demonstrated how vulnerable our power infrastructure is to these cosmic events, leading to increased interest in protecting the grid against future storms. Geomagnetic storms can also affect the internet, especially in regions that rely on satellite-based communication. High-energy particles from the storm can create signal interference, slowing down internet speeds or even causing temporary outages. This disruption can affect everything from online banking and digital transactions to remote work and streaming services. With our modern society becoming more dependent on technology every day, the risks posed by geomagnetic storms are only increasing. Companies and governments are investing in research to develop protective measures, such as hardened satellites and grid systems that can withstand these solar disturbances. Early warning systems are also being developed to give industries a chance to brace themselves for these powerful space events. Effects on human behavior and mental health. Geomagnetic storms don't just mess with technology, they can also influence how we think, feel, and behave. There's a growing body of research suggesting that these cosmic events may have a direct impact on our mental and emotional well-being. It might sound far-fetched, but there are scientific reasons to believe that when the sun throws a tantrum, our moods and behaviors can shift as well. One of the most common effects of geomagnetic storms on humans is changes in mood. During a storm, many people report feeling anxious, irritable, or even slightly disoriented. Scientists believe that this could be due to the way solar particles interact with Earth's magnetic field, which in turn influences the electromagnetic environment that surrounds us. Our bodies are sensitive to these subtle changes, leading to fluctuations in our mood and mental state. The connection between geomagnetic activity and mental health has been studied for decades. Some researchers have observed that periods of high geomagnetic activity coincide with increased rates of depression, anxiety, and even suicidal thoughts in sensitive individuals. The theory is that our brain's chemistry, particularly the levels of melatonin and serotonin, might be influenced by these cosmic changes. When these chemicals are out of balance, it can lead to mood swings, sleep disturbances, and emotional instability. Geomagnetic storms can also disrupt sleep patterns, making it difficult to get a restful night's sleep. Many people report feeling unusually restless or experiencing vivid dreams during these events. Since sleep is so closely linked to our mood and cognitive function, any disturbance in our sleep cycle can have a significant impact on our overall mental health. If you've ever had trouble sleeping during a storm, you're not alone. It's one of the more common effects reported by those who are sensitive to these cosmic shifts. In some cases, people may also experience what is known as geomagnetic sensitivity. This means they have a heightened awareness of changes in the electromagnetic field around them, which can manifest as physical sensations like headaches, dizziness, or a feeling of unease. This sensitivity is not fully understood, but it suggests that some individuals might be more in tune with the Earth's magnetic fluctuations than others. Despite the challenges that geomagnetic storms might bring, there are ways to manage their effects on mental health. Being aware of these cosmic events and their potential impact on your mood can help you prepare for any emotional ups and downs. Simple practices like meditation, grounding exercises, or spending time in nature can help stabilize your energy and keep your mind calm during these intense periods. Understanding that these feelings are temporary and linked to a natural phenomenon can also make it easier to cope. Awareness is key, and staying informed about upcoming geomagnetic storms can empower you to take control of your mental and emotional well-being. When you know what to expect, it's easier to put coping strategies in place and make the necessary adjustments to your daily routine. The more you understand the cosmic forces at play, the better equipped you'll be to ride the storm without letting it disrupt your peace of mind. Geomagnetic storm preparedness. Preparing for a geomagnetic storm might not be something you think about every day, but it's becoming increasingly important as these cosmic events can disrupt so many aspects of modern life. While we can't stop geomagnetic storms from happening, we can take steps to minimize their impact on our technology and daily routines. Think of it as preparing for a natural disaster, but instead of boarding up windows, we're protecting our electronic world. The first step in geomagnetic storm preparedness is to stay informed. Keeping track of space weather reports and alerts can give you a heads up when a storm is on the horizon. Several organizations, like NASA and NOAA, provide regular updates on solar activity, which can help you understand when a storm is likely to hit. Apps and websites dedicated to space weather can notify you of potential geomagnetic disturbances, allowing you to prepare in advance. One practical way to protect your electronic devices during a storm is to unplug them when possible. Geomagnetic storms can create power surges that might damage sensitive electronics like computers, televisions, and smart home systems. By disconnecting these devices, you reduce the risk of a sudden surge frying their circuits. For those who rely on more critical technology, such as medical devices or important data storage systems, consider using surge protectors or uninterruptible power supplies, UPS, to add an extra layer of protection. Another crucial aspect of preparedness involves backing up important data. Geomagnetic storms can lead to power outages that affect computers and data servers, potentially causing data loss. Regularly backing up your information to external hard drives or cloud storage ensures that you won't lose vital data in the event of a storm. For businesses, this step is essential to maintaining continuity and minimizing downtime if disruptions occur. Communication is another area to focus on. During strong geomagnetic storms, satellite-based communications can be affected, impacting everything from GPS to mobile phone services. It's a good idea to have a backup plan for communication, such as landline phones or even walkie-talkies, in case your regular devices are down. Knowing how to reach loved ones and important contacts without relying on your smartphone can make a big difference. In terms of home preparedness, having an emergency kit is always a smart move. This kit should include basic supplies like water, non-perishable food, flashlights, batteries, and a first aid kit. In case a geomagnetic storm causes a power outage in your area, you'll be ready to manage until the grid is restored. It's also wise to have some cash on hand, as electronic payment systems might not work during severe disruptions. For those who are more sensitive to geomagnetic storms and their effects on mood or health, It's helpful to incorporate stress-reducing techniques into your routine. Practices like meditation, yoga, or deep breathing exercises can help you stay grounded and calm during these periods of heightened solar activity. Spending time in nature or engaging in creative hobbies can also be a soothing way to balance your energy. Link to historical events. Geomagnetic storms have been influencing human history for centuries, often leaving a mark on society in surprising ways. Understanding these historical events gives us a unique perspective on how these cosmic forces have shaped the world. The link between solar activity and major disruptions on Earth isn't a new discovery. In fact, some of the most significant geomagnetic storms in history have led to unforgettable consequences. One of the most famous geomagnetic storms occurred in 1859, known as the Carrington event. This massive storm was so powerful that it lit up the skies with auroras as far south as the Caribbean. People reported seeing the skies glowing in vibrant shades of red, green, and purple, so bright that they could read newspapers by their light in the middle of the night. Telegraph systems, which were the main form of communication at the time, were severely affected. Operators experienced electric shocks, telegraph lines sparked with fire, and some machines continued to operate even after being disconnected from their power sources due to the induced currents from the storm. The Carrington event serves as a stark reminder of how geomagnetic storms can disrupt technology, even in an era when our dependence on electronics was minimal compared to today. If a storm of that magnitude were to hit now, the impact on our modern infrastructure would be far greater, affecting everything from satellite communications to power grids and even the internet. Another significant geomagnetic storm occurred in 1989, affecting the Hydro-Quebec power grid in Canada. This storm caused a 9-hour blackout that left millions of people in the dark. The power grid failure was so extensive that it took days to fully restore electricity to the affected areas. This event highlighted how vulnerable even modern power infrastructures are to these cosmic forces. It also prompted energy companies and governments to invest in research and technology to better predict and mitigate the effects of geomagnetic storms. Throughout history, many ancient civilizations interpreted these celestial events as signs from the gods or omens of significant changes. For example, the Vikings and other northern cultures believed that the auroras were the reflections of the shields of Valkyries, warrior maidens from Norse mythology. Meanwhile, in ancient Chinese records, auroras were often described as dragons fighting in the sky, symbolizing cosmic battles that could influence the fate of empires. These historical accounts show that humanity has always been fascinated by the mysteries of the sky. The more we learn about geomagnetic storms and their effects, the more we realize that they have been a part of our story for as long as we have gazed at the stars. Understanding these links to the past helps us prepare for future events and reminds us of our ongoing relationship with the universe. Today, scientists use this knowledge of past geomagnetic storms to develop models that predict when and how future storms might occur. By studying these historical events, we gain valuable insights into the patterns of solar activity and how they interact with Earth's magnetic field. This helps us build better systems to protect our technology and infrastructure from the next big cosmic event. Current geomagnetic storm predictions. Current predictions about geomagnetic storms have become more sophisticated thanks to advances in technology and a better understanding of space weather. Scientists around the world monitor the sun's activity constantly, watching for signs of solar flares and coronal mass ejections, CMAs, that could lead to geomagnetic storms. This vigilance helps them predict when a storm might hit Earth and how severe its effects could be. One of the key tools in predicting geomagnetic storms is the use of satellites like the Solar and Heliospheric Observatory, SOHO, and the Solar Dynamics Observatory, SDO. These satellites are positioned in space to give scientists a direct view of the sun's surface. They capture images and data that reveal when solar flares or CMEs are occurring, providing a crucial early warning system. This data allows experts to estimate the speed and direction of the solar particles heading towards Earth. Another important aspect of prediction is understanding the strength of the solar wind. The solar wind is a stream of charged particles released from the sun's atmosphere that can intensify during a geomagnetic storm. By analyzing the solar wind's speed and density, scientists can estimate how much it will interact with Earth's magnetic field and what impact it will have when it arrives. Predictions about upcoming geomagnetic storms are typically shared with the public through various platforms. Organizations like NOAA's Space Weather Prediction Center and NASA provide updates and alerts on their websites. They often rate the storms on a scale, indicating whether the event is expected to be mild, moderate, or severe. A mild storm might cause beautiful auroras visible at lower latitudes, while a severe storm could disrupt communications and power grids on a large scale. Recent data suggests that we may be entering a period of increased solar activity, known as the solar maximum. This is part of the sun's 11-year cycle, during which it becomes more active and releases more solar flares and CMEs. During this time, the likelihood of geomagnetic storms increases, and the storms themselves can be more intense. Understanding these cycles allows us to prepare better for the possible disruptions they could bring. As we become more reliant on technology in our everyday lives, staying informed about space weather is more important than ever. For those living in areas where the auroras might be visible, a geomagnetic storm can be a stunning natural display. However, for businesses and infrastructure systems, it can mean potential disruptions that need to be managed carefully. Geomagnetic storms and their impact on the Earth's magnetic field. Geomagnetic storms do more than just cause disruptions in technology and human behavior. They'd also have a profound effect on the Earth's magnetic field itself. Understanding these effects is crucial because our planet's magnetic field acts as a protective shield against solar radiation and cosmic rays. When this shield is disturbed, it can lead to a cascade of changes in our atmosphere and beyond. The Earth's magnetic field, also known as the magnetosphere, is like an invisible bubble that surrounds our planet. It protects us from the solar wind, a stream of charged particles emitted by the sun. During a geomagnetic storm, these charged particles collide with the magnetosphere, causing it to compress and shake. This interaction generates electric currents within the magnetosphere, which then ripple through to the Earth's atmosphere. One of the most visible effects of these interactions is the creation of auroras, or northern and southern lights. These stunning light displays occur when charged particles from the sun collide with gases in the Earth's atmosphere, causing them to glow in vibrant colors like green, pink, and red. The stronger the storm, the more intense and widespread the auroras can be, sometimes being visible much further from the poles than usual. However, the impact of geomagnetic storms on the Earth's magnetic field is not always so benign. When the magnetosphere is disturbed, it can lead to geomagnetic-induced currents, GICs, on the ground. These currents can flow through power lines, pipelines, and even the Earth's crust itself. GICs are responsible for some of the disruptions to power grids and other infrastructure that occur during severe geomagnetic storms. The disturbance of the Earth's magnetic field can also affect navigation systems that rely on magnetic compasses. During a geomagnetic storm, the compass readings can become inaccurate, which might not seem like a big deal for most of us, but can have significant implications for navigation in aviation and maritime industries. Pilots and sailors often need to rely on alternative systems to ensure they remain on course during these periods. Interestingly, the changes in the Earth's magnetic field during a geomagnetic storm can even extend to affecting animal behavior. Many migratory species, such as birds, whales, and even some fish use the Earth's magnetic field as a guide for their navigation. When the magnetic field is disturbed, it can confuse these animals, sometimes leading them off course or causing unusual behavior. Geomagnetic storms and space weather monitoring. Space weather monitoring has become an essential part of understanding and preparing for geomagnetic storms. Just like meteorologists predict the weather on Earth, scientists specialize in tracking space weather to forecast solar activity and its potential impact on our planet. This field has grown significantly in recent years as our dependence on technology has increased, making it crucial to anticipate disruptions caused by geomagnetic storms. One of the primary tools used in space weather monitoring is a network of satellites that observe the Sun and its activities. These satellites, like the Solar and Heliospheric Observatory, (SOHO), and the Advanced Composition Explorer, (ACE), are stationed in strategic locations where they can provide real-time data on solar flares, coronal mass ejections, CMAs, and the solar wind. This information is essential in predicting when a geomagnetic storm might hit Earth and how strong it will be. Another critical component of space weather monitoring is ground-based observatories that track changes in the Earth's magnetic field. These observatories use magnetometers to measure the strength and direction of magnetic fields in different parts of the world. When a geomagnetic storm is approaching, these instruments detect the fluctuations caused by solar particles interacting with the magnetosphere, helping scientists gauge the storm's potential impact. The data collected from these monitoring systems is analyzed and used to generate alerts and warnings. Organizations like the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, in the United States and similar agencies worldwide play a key role in disseminating this information to the public and industries that might be affected. They provide space weather alerts that categorize storms by their intensity, ranging from minor, G1, to extreme, G5, indicating the level of potential disruption. Industries that rely heavily on satellite communications, such as aviation, telecommunications, and GPS navigation, depend on these alerts to prepare for geomagnetic storms. Airlines, for example, might reroute flights to avoid polar regions where solar radiation is strongest during a storm. Similarly, power grid operators use this information to take preventive measures, like reducing the load on the grid or implementing strategies to protect critical infrastructure from overload. Space weather monitoring is not just about protecting technology. It's also about advancing our understanding of the Sun's behavior and its long-term cycles. Researchers study the Sun's 11-year cycle of solar activity, known as the solar cycle, to predict periods of increased solar storms. Knowing when the solar maximum, the peak of solar activity, is expected helps scientists anticipate a higher frequency of geomagnetic storms and their possible effects on Earth. The role of geomagnetic storms in shaping Earth's climate. While most discussions about geomagnetic storms focus on their immediate impacts on technology and human behavior, there's a growing interest in their potential role in shaping Earth's climate. Although the exact relationship between geomagnetic storms and climate change is still a topic of scientific debate, there is evidence suggesting that these cosmic events might influence weather patterns and atmospheric conditions on a global scale. One theory is that geomagnetic storms can affect the Earth's upper atmosphere, leading to changes in weather patterns. When solar particles from a geomagnetic storm enter the Earth's atmosphere, they deposit energy that heats the upper layers, such as the thermosphere and ionosphere. This heating can cause the atmosphere to expand and create ripple effects that influence wind patterns and the movement of air masses around the planet. The increased energy from geomagnetic storms can also impact cloud formation, which plays a crucial role in Earth's climate system. Some studies suggest that cosmic rays, which increase during periods of high solar activity, may enhance the formation of cloud condensation nuclei, tiny particles around which clouds form. More clouds can lead to changes in temperature and precipitation patterns, potentially altering regional climates. In polar regions, geomagnetic storms can have a more direct impact due to their influence on the auroras. These light displays are not just beautiful to watch, they also indicate that solar particles are interacting with the atmosphere. This interaction can lead to localized heating and changes in atmospheric circulation, which might affect weather conditions in these sensitive areas. There is also a hypothesis that links geomagnetic storms to changes in the North Atlantic Oscillation, NAO, and other significant climate oscillations that influence weather patterns in Europe and North America. While the science is still evolving, some researchers believe that the impact of geomagnetic storms on atmospheric pressure and wind patterns could play a role in these climate phenomena, affecting everything from winter temperatures to storm tracks. However, it's important to note that the connection between geomagnetic storms and climate change is still not fully understood. The Earth's climate is influenced by a multitude of factors, including greenhouse gas emissions, ocean currents, volcanic activity, and other natural cycles. Geomagnetic storms might be one of many elements that contribute to short-term weather variations, but their role in long-term climate trends remains an area of active research. Scientists continue to study this intriguing link using data from both space-based and ground-based observations. By understanding how solar activity interacts with the Earth's atmosphere, researchers hope to uncover new insights into the mechanisms that drive our planet's climate. This knowledge could lead to more accurate climate models and predictions, helping us better understand the natural and human influences that shape our world.